highly disappointed with their access.
I've tried all stars at times and I get nothing.
All right.
Not 1, 2, 3, 4.
No. No.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order the December 19th, 2024 meeting of Scarborough Economic Development Corporation. I'm glad just about everyone to be here in person today. Councilor Anderson is joining us online. So Karen just pointed out that the short version comment after the roundtable discussion was from the last agenda, but we do have some things later on, so I'll keep mine short. Just one, the Atlantic branch over on King Road is coming along very nicely. I think we're looking for maybe a March opening.
Mhm.
I think
Good.
that's been that's been moving along very, very fast. They've been happy with how that's been progressing. From a lending standpoint, the Fed did cut rates yesterday, another quarter, 25 points. They did signal that they may only do it twice in 2025 instead of 4 times, which was initially expected. So I've read different things that they think the new administration, there'll be some actions taken that will increase, activity. So they don't want too much money in, so they're just slowing down, I think, their process of cutting rates. So it'll be interesting to see how rates react. We've been busy, commercial and residential. I think some deals are getting a little bit easier to make happen with interest rates coming down. Well, values still high, prices still high, but that's about it.
Yeah, knee deep into the holiday buying season right now. Thanksgiving overall was pretty good for us, the Thanksgiving week. And then, these next 4 days are pretty much the busiest days that we have the entire year. Just challenges having the holiday fall on Wednesday and just kind of screws up kind of our delivery schedule, stuff like that. But it's the biggest stress of making sure you have enough product at this point and not having too much at the same time. So it's definitely an interesting time where, but we'll have some fun over the next couple of days, running around and trying to take care of everybody we can.
So what are people buying?
Whatever they can, and it gets even more interesting as you get closer to Christmas, and at least in our industry, it's the last stuff that people are really buying. Because if it's outside of a party, it's more on that gift thing, and we've been beneficial of. There's so much traffic headed out to South Portland now. People want to avoid that, so if they come our way, they can just cross off a bunch of people's name on their list. So it's definitely interesting, and you can't predict what sells this time of year. That's the challenge.
Okay.
These next 4 days are the busiest days of the entire season. So this past fall, I think we saw we've seen some challenges in terms of scarcity of some of the products. Maine haddock, just not a lot of it around, not great quality for what's out there. We've been buying Icelandic haddock mostly. Smaller, they do a better job of managing their fishery. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's a solid product. Lobster prices, I think, have been up a little bit from years past, and I think that's another economic indicator. It's just there's not as many lobsters harvested this year, which drives up prices, but not too bad. Locally at Pine Tree Seafood, we enrolled in a program with the Maine Center for Entrepreneurs for Dunston Smokehouse. So we're going to go through their food accelerator program. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes.
That's cool.
The next year. They've been a fantastic organization, and being able to get out of the store and doing deliveries to the number of stores that we have, the owners of other businesses, other entrepreneurs, and that's a really energetic group of people. You see the same faces pretty much every time, but so we're hoping that we can ride that wave. This past year, they had their Golden Fork Awards where they announced, I think their Top Gun winner,
Mhm.
they call it. It's a 2-year process, so we hope to be in the money for that in a couple of years. Dunstan's Bookhouse is growing. Recently, we picked up accounts with Rosemont Market.
Excellent.
Pretty cool. We like the demographic where their stores are.
Yeah,
Cape Elizabeth, Falmouth, Yarmouth, right now, West End, and Lois's. Is principal.
Oh,
So,
nice.
That's they've got a great store there. I did a product demo there a couple of days ago, and it was just nice to get into other people's stores and look around and stuff. Gives me some ideas for our own store to freshen it up a little bit. But and then looking into the new, Maine runs out of lobster in February every year. And that's after the inauguration, so we'll see if the tariffs get applied to Canadian goods. So a lot of processors are watching that, and a little nervous that our lobsters are 25% more. It's going to shut off any channels to the Far East again, China. So it'll push up prices locally because we have to get our lobsters from Canada. We really don't have a choice, and that's for the entire market as a whole. It may be more lobster in Maine if there aren't avenues to process it and send it otherwise this coming summer. So we may see a reduction in prices if there's more product around. So it'll be an interesting 2025 for sure.
Is there enough processing here in Maine to take care of the
Probably too much. I think
Okay.
when we, my opinion, less that is that we probably export too much because
Okay.
it affects the domestic pricing. And if people in Maine can't afford lobster, then there's an imbalance somewhere.
Mhm.
So it seems like we probably are used to harvesting in these big record numbers, and that's probably going to go down. We're recent news, Maine, there's going to be a very short test haul of Maine shrimp this coming spring.
Cool.
Thinking that, in an industry, in a fishery that used to, do tens of millions, well, up to 10 million pounds of shrimp in a year, this is going to be around a 60,000 pound haul. But it'll be interesting to see Maine shrimp again.
Mhm.
Yeah, very
To
good.
remember how much
Yeah.
fun it isn't to bring it smaller,
Right.
the little points that stab in your
Yes.
hole in it for a couple of days. So yeah, I think things are. This year was a pretty good year. We both saw our numbers down slightly in August and September, but that rebounded in October. Thanksgiving was our second busiest Thanksgiving ever. First biggest was in 2021 when we all thought COVID was over. Remember that? Right back. So that's good news. So I like the holiday in the middle of the week. You get 2 big weekends.
All right.
Who knows when people's days off are? So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday will obviously be very big. We're going to close for a couple days, and then we'll be back open on Friday for the next weekend and going into the holidays. So it should be a strong season for.
Can I ask the two of you guys who own retail stores, how do you think do you have a sense of how retail is doing or how owners are feeling right now?
I guess. I mean, credit card debt is high again, right?
Yeah.
So, and we look at that maybe as an effect from August and September. We're past the elections. There may have been some intellectual fatigue there too, where people really didn't feel like spending money on
Yeah.
fire.
And I think this time of year too, especially how it was kind of off or up a little bit for a lot of industries. People are gonna scare as much as they can to make as much as possible in this holiday season. But the fear is what's looming in quarter 1 of 25. Like that's the that's where it's, at least in our industry awareness, we'll probably see a shakedown and local craft beer establishments either closing or merging. The first quarter is gonna be interesting ride for a lot of people, I think.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you guys to think of, is there anything that we can do? We'll save it for the last discussion, but is there anything as a community that we can do to help smooth this over? So I'll give you that to ponder so we can discuss it in item 5.
Anything we SEDCO can do?
The community, SEDCO. Bigger than that, is there any, are there any things that can give people more confidence in Q1? That would smooth some of the issues over, so.
Big box stores in Scarborough.
There you go.
It's-
Yeah, I think we've checked
Yeah,
all the
no,
boxes, haven't we?
Right.
Literally.
We had options, we thought, you know,
Yeah,
but Market
yeah.
Basket, you know. Harbor Fish is a new customer of our smokehouse, so I had a chance to sit down with the owners over there and they're really happy,
Mm.
you know. With Market Basket coming down there, there'll be lobster deals, just get people into their store selling fish for cost or less, just to get people to buy other things. But, you know, maybe Scarborough is now a big business town, so.
Let's see. Yeah.
My turn. Pretty busy, as a transactional lawyer this time of year. I don't like the middle of the week vacations. It really makes a difference. My practice is winding down, so I'm not as busy as I have been. I'm cutting back after the end of this year. I am working on a couple of interesting projects in town. One, you're probably all aware of the FedEx facility out at Beach Ridge. Has run into a fair amount of opposition from the neighborhood, but it is what it is. And that is going back to the planning board on January 21, which is the date for hopefully final approval. Contingent upon getting DEP approval, which is also in the works. That project has resulted in a moratorium for the LI district. I don't know what happened last night. So that's.
It was limited to certain uses. It started to apply to all uses in the LI district, and with the amendment last night, it's focused only on wholesale trade, trucking terminals, and cannabis-related uses. All other uses are allowed.
I'm sorry, just, so this didn't require zoning or anything, just planning board, correct? This project?
Yes,
FedEx.
I'm not trying to follow your question, but it has to meet zone.
No, I mean, it didn't require zoning change or,
No, it's a trucking terminal.
and yet there's been now a moratorium in the district, and it's because of people upset about the project in general.
Exactly right. Yeah, and frankly, the FedEx project really skirted by. There could have been a retroactivity component that would have disallowed, or at least during the moratorium period. So that has passed. So at this point, it's going to move forward. And I think it's all but approved. I think you need two permits and it met all the local requirements.
Yeah, the moratorium carved out pending projects. The
Oh, sure, yeah.
person who really, I think, is affected was the butter, Mr. Dickinson.
There's lots of ideas. There's nothing concrete.
Yeah, he argued that he had a pending application, but certainly.
My assessment is that 90 days will probably not harm him long term. Just he doesn't have anything ready to go.
Okay.
A lot of ideas, just nothing ready to
But the
advance.
change of uses could have.
Good, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, but I'm
Right.
saying the moratorium itself is not likely to harm him.
Will this see construction start in 25?
Hopefully. The actual developers that often called Setzer properties in around Lexington, Kentucky. And they do FedEx facilities all over the country. And this is just one of many, so they'll build it, lease it with FedEx and often go. The other project I'm involved with on behalf of the developer is the internet. project.
Mm.
It's numbered out.
Mm.
That actually been approved. Complicated. I hadn't really spent much time looking at the Scarborough Downs approval scheme until I got into this. And it's been approved in phases, and this is the so-called town center
Yes.
Which is where market rents can go in that same area. And Remedy Medical Properties of Chicago will be the developer project, and it's going to be it's ambulatory care and surgical facility, not medical office. You won't go to the CPR, you go to the surgery room. And I think they're planning to start construction early next year. It's not a huge building, it's just one story,
Or all.
2 stories.
Yeah.
You're building, it, right? You
Yeah.
guys are building, yeah. So anyway, that's been a very interesting project, cast of thousands involved.
Yes.
It's unbelievable, how many people on emails. But I've been brought in as local councilors to deal with this and that, a few other things that come up. I mean, other than that, I have a few other cats and dogs that have nothing to do with Scarborough, and this year I would be, limited.
Look at him lean back.
Practicing, but I am withdrawing from the law firm as a shareholder,
Hmm.
which starts payout or 4-year payout for shareholders. And I work on what I want to work, what I want to move on. I'll get a percentage of it. So I'll still be practicing, but
The dream version of practicing,
my
huh?
younger one is now an associate at the town's law firm.
Oh,
I don't know if Jay is doing anything directly, maybe stuff in the back, but. Yeah, my younger one is an associate apprentice, sure, now working in the real estate. So, anyway, that's about all. Unbelievable. My son-in-law is fine, by the way, I'm sorry, just
That's
Good,
great
good, good.
relief.
missed the,
Yeah.
missed the annual meeting, but that was the height of this. The situation, but he's much, much better. Still can't taste or smell,
Wow.
which is very frustrating, but he's okay.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah, we are involved in the pre-construction for the internet project. It's interesting. Usually Rick's on it like way before everyone else, but in this particular case, it was about 2 years ago that we started the chase for it. And then things kind of quieted down, then they heated up again about a year ago. And we were awarded the project midsummer. And we are aiming for April, May groundbreaking. They're gonna do a preload on the site for 3-4 months. That's gonna be happening pretty soon, and then we'll get going. E4H Architects, which is the old Morris Switzer architects there, they've got the design. It's a very attractive building, 2 stories, 60,000 square feet. The first floor is the ambulatory surgery center and imaging. And then the second floor is more traditional. It's an urgent care clinic and traditional medical office space. So that's our major thing going on in Scarborough. Scarborough, as you know, over on Payne Road, there's a hotel going up that was in the paper this week that there's Peter Anastas's group, Maine Hospitality Group. And at a somewhat slower pace, the project on Mussey Road looks like a 3-story building. That's that company out of the Northwest there that's doing extended stay hotels.
Yeah.
And the project at 8 Corners, which if people haven't been in town are just astounded by. But that's moving along, and that's kind of the little area of Scarborough where there's a lot of construction going on. Though my favorite spot for construction is on my way to work, driving down Highland Avenue and Chamberlain Road over by the old Pleasant Hill Golf Course. There's been 12 new homes that have gone up on one side of the road. There's condos going up by the daycare right there by St. Max's Church. There's more construction going on that street than I think anywhere else in town. It's so funny. It's all residential. But it's just, you wouldn't think it would be going on. We're ending the year. There's a little bit of uncertainty about that first quarter of 2025. There's a lot of change coming, as you know, I mean, in Washington. Someone at the University of Maine said, well, as far as research grant money, maybe we'll be taking a little pause. There were two projects that have come out from the University of Maine system to end the year where we've got four projects that we're proposing for before Christmas. So as much as you hear uncertainty, you're active. And you know, so it's kind of a dichotomy a little bit. It doesn't make sense. I'm gonna cut the other stuff, but I want to tell you, I went yesterday to the Merida breakfast on the restaurant Apocalypse in Portland, and they had Richard Pfeffer from Gritty's. They had Jay Villani, who has shut down two of his restaurants, South Barbecue and Local 188, and he has still got Black Cow going. And then they had Josh Miranda, who has opened 5 bars, restaurants in the last 7 years. And they are expecting that there will be more in the first quarter of 2025. They said that and I saw the headline about that tourist traffic in Maine was down this summer. And he said that in combination with great weather kept people from going into restaurants and bars, which is a new one on there. Also, they're razor thin margins. They had a pretty good fall, but it all came back to overregulation and the effects of the pandemic just, you know, like eventually causing them to have to shut their doors. And I'm telling you, I think there were over 100 people at Hannaford Hall at USM. It ran until almost 10:30.
Yeah.
It ran almost a half hour over, and I think people would have just stayed there listening to these three. It was just incredibly interesting. And it was a hodgepodge of other restaurant owners and bankers. It was just a really good event. And I've been getting out talking to a lot of design firms. I'm told that in Boston, they don't feel it's normal. People are busy, no one's saying no to opportunities. It's just not normal. And there's an incredible interest by Boston firms in the Portland market. And we're seeing it in some instances.
When you say Boston firms, do you mean all firms or restaurants or
No, I'm
builders?
sorry, I'm moving over to construction.
Builders, good, okay.
I'm over into construction, so, you know, Turner Construction is staying in Portland after building Maine Med. They've got a full-time office. Suffolk Construction has moved to Portland. They're doing 3 projects at the University of Maine, Machias. DEW Construction, DEW Construction out of Vermont and New Hampshire has opened an office and has work coming in Maine. So there are a lot of new players and a lot of people looking to fill their sales goals by coming into Maine. So it should be an interesting 2025. I think, as you know, Jason said, that first quarter is going to be really telling. So that's it.
Are you guys concerned at all with the tariffs potential?
Yes, we are.
That could really impact.
Yes, we are,
Right.
for workforce and for construction materials.
Okay.
Yeah.
So from the town side, town council's kind of hitting its stride. We've got 3 new councilors, well, 2 new, one retread. Bill Donovan came back. I say that with all great affection. You know, Bill's able to hit the ground running. Bill, you know, was past chair and certainly on council. Scott Doherty, brand new councilor. To my great interest and surprise. He is super engaged. He has a comment and participates in certainly every opportunity. Has been a good contributing member, and I think represents some here that is underrepresented, frankly. So it's a really healthy part of the discourse. And then Corey Fellows, Corey has never served, to my knowledge, elected office, but has served this town for 20+ years, mostly in the long range planning capacity. He's a professional affordable housing developer, so he brings a lot of great talent and perspective to the conversation. So, I'm really bullish on the next year. I think we've got a super talented council. They're going to convene themselves next month to set goals for the year. I'll be interested to see if past years, and I see Councilor Anderson online suggest anything, there'll be likely a very ambitious set of goals. But this group, I expect, will not just direct staff, they will roll up their sleeves and be actively engaged in meeting those goals. So anxious to kind of get that piece in place and have a better sense of what the next 12 months look like. Just two other things I want to touch on. I'm actively involved in the school building project. This is the third time around. It truly is Groundhog Day. We're meeting pretty much weekly, like we did through the course of the spring. There's a lot of work to be done. John, you can speak to this further, but my sense is the council has all but indicated that the school is the priority. I think it's going to be part of their goals. And so I think there'll be a sole focus, which I think we need at this point. Frankly, the school solution is a bit paralyzing. We've got a lot of other important conversations that we'd like to and should be having. But I think we're just paralyzed by needing to find that solution and have it fall in place first. So whatever your motivation is, I think the motivation is finally there for this to be everyone to get behind. Now it's going to be up to this process to identify the right solution. Two things I just note on that. The one thing that's decidedly different this time is that budget is at the forefront of the conversation. Typically, these processes are, let's plan the work, the space need analysis, and then at the end of the process, the architects will tell us what the probable cost estimate is, and then everyone kind of shrugs and said, "All right, we'll put that out to voters." This time, there's a high sensitivity to the number, and we'll see how that all shakes out. I think that is correct, but at the end of the day, we need a product that's going to meet the needs, and so now I'm a little anxious about how that's going to translate. The reality is we're not going to be able to do everything we had hoped to. I think the last one was a kind of full system solution, if you will. My hunch is that we'll have to attend to the immediate priorities of K2 first and foremost, and whether we could do the other stuff remains to be seen. And I think it's going to be budget driving that decision. The other thing I'll just foreshadow for you, we've been working with MDOT and a whole bunch of state and federal partners on the stretch of Route 1 across the marsh. As I think we all know, as Scarborough residents, the marsh routinely floods 4 to 6 to 8 times a year, typically in kind of storm events with high tide, that perfect storm. But with sea level rise, it's certainly going to become it's going to be inundated fairly regularly, maybe on every high tide. So really pleased with the amount of engagement around the conversation. Was part of a meeting yesterday they had 50+ stakeholders, and you won't be surprised to hear that not everyone is there to find the engineering highway solution. There's a lot of other environmental and natural resource interests about the health of the marsh and the ecosystem. So there's a lot of voices around the table. The good news is there seemed to be conceptual understanding that the road will be raised 4 feet, essentially all the way across the marsh. And then at the Dunstan River, there's now 4 culverts that pass the water through on each tide. The idea would be to replace those culverts with a bridge, an open span as big as 75 feet. And it will likely have a higher elevation kind of at its peak, maybe as high as 8 feet after the impacts. That seems like the right solution. There's a couple of flags for me that passing more water more quickly, under that roadway, because let's face it, it's a barrier right now, it holds water back. Just very interested to know, what sort of inundation upstream there'll be with additional water going that, allowed to go that way. And really, the point I want to raise to you is that, it's gonna be highly disruptive, just imagine rebuilding Route 1. We've got some lead time, it's probably at least 4 years out from reality. But that's gonna be a vexing problem just to deal with the constructability of that and to allow us to continue to operate our businesses and to move about our community. The final piece is that when we push water up on the other side of the marsh, Hayden Road already floods now, just below Flaherty's farm. And so, that is the next thing we need to look at, that we're gonna certainly worsen that situation. So it's trade-offs. It's about assuring that we have a good connection that's going to withstand sea level rise and storm surge. But Hayden Road is shortly behind that. It's another critical piece of infrastructure. So, 5 years ago, I was wondering where climate change fit into our calculus, and now I know. Whether it's Flat Point Road or beach communities or Route 1, it is all around us, and it will be an essential part of our capital planning and engineering design going forward. We will be informed quite a bit through a vulnerability study that will be done this spring, and the intent of that was to identify kind of critical infrastructure. So when we do our normal replacement schedule, we're not simply putting something back in kind, we're being thoughtful about the future as well, and making sure that we can prioritize those areas that are most vulnerable, but also just good capital planning practice, that we're doing things in such a way that it can withstand the future.
What's the status of the Highland? Highland Road and maybe across, when you come up Skirwing and you keep a left.
Sawyer Street?
Sawyer Street, right.
Yeah, Sawyer Street, that's an interesting, Sawyer Street is the road that floods the most and has for a decade or better. It sits almost at sea level. It's surrounded by Rachel Carson Preserve. I don't know if you can picture this. You probably don't have the occasion to drive on that very often. It's a little spur street off Spurwick Avenue. It runs into Cape Elizabeth.
Oh, yeah.
And there's probably 8-10 houses on the Scarborough side that are served by that road. And then, of course, the Cape side. The Cape Council, to their credit, 3 years ago approached us, recognizing that it continually floods and the culvert is collapsing, the road is deteriorating, so something has to be done. The solution is to abandon the road, discontinue it, as opposed to raising it, putting $4 to $6 million.
Right.
Take it right out, right? And a lot of the natural resource folks are very excited about returning that to its natural condition, particularly since we've got federal preserve on each side. So that's a great example of, in one case, we're going to spend maybe $50 million to improve Route 1 with an engineering solution. But there's all the other solutions that don't require any money. It's to walk away from it. There's consequences, trade-offs with both approaches.
What about Black Point Road up here? Try the corner. How's that going?
Out down in Ponce Neck.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we finally have a design. For those of you who don't know, we lost part of the road on Black Point Road past the inn. Just as you approach Checkly Point, the turnaround. It's been closed all winter, limited to one lane. So it's a FEMA project. We finally have a final design. We're within weeks of getting FEMA approval. Been in very close contact with the Ponce Neck community. It's critical for them to come and go for the companies. The real key is to get the work done before the summer season. So it's going to be tight, but I think it's possible. It's going to be, it's all going to hinge on the right contractor, frankly. We think our time is right. We're going to be soliciting bids sometime in mid-late January. So the hope is that we're catching people before they booked up for the year. And this will be work that will be done really before the convention construction season.
Is that federal funds?
Not with federal, through FEMA, there's a 10% local match, which is not insignificant. We think it's a $4 million project. It requires rebuilding the entire bank and then, of course, the roadway with drainage.
Route One project, have they looked at how they want to do it? Are they gonna stop traffic on one? Are they gonna
No,
do one direction only?
I think there would always be a lane in both directions. So right now we've got 2 lanes both directions. They'll find a way to phase their construction such that there'll always be at least one lane in both directions, which through the middle of the marsh, most times that should work. We've got kind of pinpoints at the signals on either end. But there'll be times of the year.
Yeah.
And this is not gonna be a quick project.
What they did up in Wisconsin on Route One, and they had a temporary bridge. Yeah.
They won't,
There was a lot of
they're,
traffic through that.
that's one of the things, they're gonna have to stay within the limits of the road
Yeah.
as we know it today.
Oh.
There's not an opportunity for a temporary bridge workaround. The impacts are too great, they say.
Lengthen the project for sure.
Yeah, the other thing, I just had a chance to talk to the engineers, they're studying different construction techniques, but the one that I think they'll go to. It's 250 feet before they hit, what they call it, it's actually out, it's a sand layer, but everything else is mucked until it gets about 250 feet.
Wow.
Through the entire stretch. And so that road, and if you look at it with the sun right, you'll see it, it's just kind of a road like this, because it's floating. And sinking in many parts, so as part of this reconstruction and the raising of it, they'll actually be driving piles 250 feet deep.
Oh.
And this road is gonna kind of sit on this grid system of piles.
Wow.
Yeah,
Does this
Oh.
issue, do you think in any way, would it force like some serious discussions on connecting Route One, maybe in Saco to Payne Road? I mean, is that ever, like, it would require an eminent domain?
in Saco.
Well, so say where the Larry farm is, where their farm stand is, or somewhere along there,
Yeah,
could that ever connect to Payne Road and just be a main route for Route One that takes you?
yeah, I don't know if it would be that far down, what we've always looked at is some sort of. Jump handle or way around the intersection of Broad Turn, the main intersection there. I think the key to all that, the linchpin property is Zersper property. So a picture behind on the Vine, we rerouted Payne Road, there's the opportunity for a 4-way intersection there. And to kind of build a new road across that open field. Somehow thread
We
it through.
created a new artery and then fix Route One, sort of still no.
Main road just isn't set up to handle that amount of traffic south of.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was sort of the plan years ago when you get back.
Yeah,
to Line,
Payne Road is.
funny, but
You're right. We tried to discourage traffic from Payne Road, at least the stretch, by Fleury's farm there, it was never built to handle the volume. Whereas the rest of Payne Road from Cabela's all the way to the airport, the main mall, is gonna be a 4-lane road section. It's gonna be built, and most of it already is, to move traffic predominantly. And that's gonna be the trick, is how do we preserve our end of Payne Road as kind of a rural road it always was.
Any chance for an exit off of Broad Turn like they did? They're just doing now, finishing up in Saco.
There's the potential, NTA has a process, you can apply for interchange, I don't know what benefits it will have. I hadn't thought about that connection. It's my backyard, but I hadn't thought about it. Yeah, to do so, you need a good transportation system to get from Route One to it, so Broadshire Road you'd have to do something with that. The more likely one would be down Old Orchard Beach, Flag Pond Road. Ideally, Cascade Road into Flag Pond, into the intersection.
I remember when you were talking about.
Yeah.
I do want to keep us moving,
Yeah,
so we can get there. Any other questions for Tom?
Please no.
But I can go quick. First of all, I've pretty much been out of touch with most things for about 2 months now. But I do want to say a couple of things. One, thank God we finally have a breakfast restaurant in town again. Hallelujah. Two, in terms of what's going on with long range planning. we're still continuing to focus to bring together our building designs and our ordinances and stuff to try to unify them better and to take out the ambiguousness of the multiple documents. So we're trying to make it all into one document. We are continually sending bits and pieces of changes as we can to the ordinance committee so that they can submit it to the council and we can continue to move forward. Otherwise, it would just take forever to get to the one big document.
Right.
We are focusing primarily on two areas right now from an ordinance standpoint. And have been for the last several months and probably will continue for a couple more. And one is the light industrial district out where FedEx is going. There's a lot of residential concern, as was mentioned earlier. And trying to look to see if there's anything we as a committee can do to help ordinance committee deal with that issue. And most recently, we started to look once again at the Running Hill Road area for several reasons. I mean, there's interest in putting another business type buildings in the community. Obviously, the biggest issue out there is the whole concept of getting sewer west of the turnpike. So there's lots of discussion surrounding that, what we want to do, how we might be able to do it. And then that's where we're focusing right now. So I was going to say, obviously, that also kind of brings in that whole area where the connectivity, if you will, out into Gorham comes into play as well. So a couple of big pieces.
Two things. I don't know if any of you saw in Main Biz, HM Payson is getting bought out by a Canadian firm. So they are our investment firm. So so we had a board meeting yesterday. And as it turns out, this is a fairly new asset management or wealth management firm. They're also now in an agreement with a United Arab Emirates company and I guess this is fairly common among acquisitions and mergers for investment firms. And one of our board members said that it's probably going to become more common in the Portland area. So I thought that was really, really interesting. Apparently the Canadian company was going to go public, and then this United Arab Emirates company came in and said, no, we'll buy you privately. So
HM Payson is being bought by the
Canadian
company,
firm, which
and
is
the
now
Canadian companies
is being bought out by the United Arab.
Are you staying with the company?
So that was a lot of conversation at the board. So it's not going to be completed until March of 25. So we're going to kind of see how it goes. The company Corient, the Canadian company, has confirmed that they are going to keep all the leadership and all employees as it is for right now. But as you know, typically turnover will happen usually within a year or so. So we're gonna kind of keep an eye on it and just kind of determine how right now no fee increases or anything like that, but it's gonna be an interesting play. And I think and as Mike Wood is on our board, and as he was saying, it's not gonna be the only one that's gonna be happening in Portland. So more to come on that. And the other thing is, I'm sure you've heard about the paid FMLA, family paid leave. This is going to be a fairly significant impact on Piper Shores, on everyone. But and so the law does, or policy does allow for employers to offset the 1% to split it with employees. So Piper Shores did decide, and we announced this to the staff, that we are going to be splitting that. So employees will pay 0.5%, Piper Shores will pay 0.5%. The 1% goes into a state fund that won't be paid out until March of 26 or May of 26, I think it is. to start allowing for employees to get paid for their FMLA. They did talk, we had our lawyer yesterday talk about this as well at the board meeting, and one of the things that there are states that have already done this. And I think DC was actually an area that the city that tried it. They're running into a lot of issues with this, and other states as well in the execution. So they're backlogged years. So there's more to come, I'm sure, on how this is all going to shake out. But that's going to be a big impact for our employees.
I know Massachusetts has it, and my oldest daughter took advantage when
Mm.
she
Oh,
had a baby. Yeah.
Yeah.
She works for Boston Medical Center. They
And they didn't
had a long,
short-term disability. or
well, they
anything?
had short term, but she wanted to take
Yeah.
a couple extra months. And
Yeah, yeah.
was able to get paid for the
Yeah.
duration.
Wait to the end, extra board members?
John,
John,
John?
do you have anything
Um,
to?
Yeah, I have a few things. To add to what Tom said about the school, one thing I would hope that this board could help with and kind of keep their ear to the ground, given your connections, is really looking for land. So land to me is probably the biggest headwind as far as I'm concerned with the project and making sure we have a place to put the school. So again, if you guys, especially those in the development side, have your ear to the ground and know what properties may become available, coordinating that with Tom so that we can make sure we're looking at everything. I know Tom is sitting on and leading the site selection committee on that particular broad committee. So again, just hoping this board can help with that. We will be taking on the wetland setbacks. So I think we came to this group when it was the bigger 100-foot setback. I don't know, Karen, if we ever kind of came back and shared that it's only a 25-foot setback at this point. So that's something we'll be taking on, and it would be good to kind of get a perspective from this board on what that means from an economic development perspective. We had a contract zone request that we reviewed yesterday from South Portland Housing Authority for 60 one-bedroom senior affordable units and 36 workforce housing units. So this is a project that will be where the current flea market is down by Pine Point. So that's something that's exciting to see. It's the same group that did Jocelyn Place that just recently opened. And so hopefully some more housing coming from there. Food truck courts will be on our agenda to hopefully move that forward. And so I'm excited to see more of those hopefully coming to town. As Alan was discussing, there's a few things that from a council goal and land use perspective is on the horizon. The RH zone or the Running Hill zone is definitely top of mind for me to figure out how we can better allow for economic development there, because right now it's with the need for sewer, it's really limiting opportunities there. We've also talked about in finance committee focusing next year on potentially expanding our TIF boundary and looking at our TIF in the downtown area. The other piece that I think would be of interest to this group is really revisiting our rural farming zoning. So right now it's kind of everything that's under RF, which is a lot of land use, is kind of managed the same. But we have RF on the east side of 95 and RF on the west side, and not all RF is the same. So there may be some opportunity there as we kind of look at RF in the future to figure out if there's other ways to allow for housing or economic development that today is kind of limited based on how that zone is set up. Another thing, as Tom mentioned, there's a lot going on. Beach fees, we'll be taking on and reviewing beach fees again. I think we'll be taking that on in February, and I know, especially, how important, especially in summertime, our beaches are for fostering economic development. I haven't seen the proposal, but I would be interested to get this body's feedback and make sure that we're not doing anything that has, adverse harm to businesses who benefit from our summertime beaches. And then let's see what else. I think there's like 20 other things, but I'll stop there.
Thank you, John.
It won't take too much time, because I'm just echoing what John said, but, there's been a renewed interest in real estate deals, which was nice, has been nice to see, because we really haven't been doing much of anything for the past year. We are also continuing, or we continue to see, baby boomers retiring, their children do not need the businesses, so they're being sold. And so a lot of, SBA deals going on
Mhm.
because, they're purchasing goodwill, which is good. And lastly, a lot of new businesses starting. They are not fearful of the interest rates. They don't seem to mind. And again, the government, SBA I've been getting everything approved. They seem to, be very agreeable when it comes to buying and starting businesses.
The SBA made a major change recently to really kind of go by the lenders underwriting. So they'll say basically, you underwrite it your way and come to us, and if you're, and it's helped to speed up the process.
Yeah, Bangor is a preferred lender with the SBA, so we never have to send it to the SBA for underwriting, so we've always been able to do it fairly quickly. It's just the amount of them. We have a dedicated department, and we probably need to double the size of it.
I'll pass on comments. They can jump into it too. Yeah.
Okay.
Always. I'm last. Everything's covered it all. I'll echo Tom's comments.
I have no news from the literary front.
June 24th.
All right, really? Ooh, when it's gonna be released
That's when.
in the wild here?
That's when it'll be everywhere.
Excellent.
At some point, we'll hear
There'll
about.
be lots of them, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
we'll
was
talk about that
surprised for
offline.
myself, but I saw that it doesn't come out till June. I said,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote it 3 years ago, so I've learned to be patient.
There you go. You know what? That's the patience is the thing that I wanted to add to the conversation. I think it's always surprising how long it takes things to develop. I mean, when you talk about Market Basket coming to the Downs, they've been working on that, I'm gonna say for 4 years. And they certainly made some offers to a lot of different types of folks. So in our heads, we just need to keep remembering things don't happen overnight. Like we've been working with Moe's Barbecue. We worked for 2 years to find them a site, and maybe a year and a half. And then it takes a long time to get people in place. And as much as things are changing in Portland, we're having restaurants suddenly figure out that, hey, Scarborough is a pretty good market. So we've got Moe's, Stacks, Lay's Pizza opened it this week too, massive lines. So, there's a lot of things happening in the restaurant. They're not the independent restaurants per se. Moe's is a franchise. Stacks, this is a second location. But again, there's this interest in Scarborough from the demographics that are already here. So serving the existing pop.
Is that the same owner that used to own the Egg and I?
No, different folks. Yeah.
Because the same two buildings that the Egg and I had are now both stacks.
I think it was the
So-
real estate was good. They were already breakfast
Yep.
places, so I think that's what was going on. And Stacks has been certainly very busy. Moe's, I believe, will be opening in January. They're still working on a date.
Where is that?
Moe's is, remember the old great butcher shop?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where they're going.
The painting of that building
It makes a big
looked
difference.
really nice.
Yeah,
Mhm.
finally. And just on the mention of some of the things that are affecting tourism, we do have some good stats. I'd like to bring that to the board in January, and we can look at traffic at the beaches and things like that. So we can really take a good look at tourism and see what's happening here. And I will say I was at the town of Cape Elizabeth last night. A couple of us were asked to come and help work with their business community to talk about what their options are. Cape Elizabeth is actually looking at having an economic development person. So we met with about 25 businesses there, which represents probably half of all businesses in Cape Elizabeth. But it was funny to hear the conversation from them. It's where we were, I think, 10 years ago in terms of discussing business friendly and how you get things done. And anyway, so an interesting discussion last night, organized by the Greater Portland Council of Governments. And I think that's it for now.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, and I mentioned the little gym opened to I was there the day they opened and they were just swarmed. They were packed. Apparently, there is a huge market for, toddler gyms. And
Yes.
who would have thought? But yeah, they were mobbed that first day.
Karen, is Wicked Pickle in South Portland or in Scarborough?
I don't think it's in Scarborough, but we could pick
Yeah, Wicked Pickle. It's a pickleball
Oh,
courts.
yeah, I don't know.
It's right, I think it's right, it's South
It's
Portland.
right, is it right?
Yeah.
Because it's right on the line.
Yeah, it's
I
right
didn't
on
know
the
where that.
Yeah, I noticed it
Okay,
with the
it
sign.
was, yeah, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking it was a restaurant.
I
And I
thought
was
it
like, really?
No.
All right, so we will do the approvals quickly. The first approval is for the September meeting minutes.
Remember, there are two sets of minutes, one for the business meeting
Mhm.
and one for the regular meeting.
Separately or-
I would approve them separately, just
So Meg, can I have a motion to approve the September 19th Board of Directors meeting?
So,
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, the second one would be the annual meeting.
correct.
Can I have a motion to approve the September 19th, 2024 annual business meeting minutes?
So moved.
Okay.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Do you have anything to say about the financial report?
No, I think
before we-
November, I was just looking, November's pretty standard. No
Yeah.
big expenses in November, so I think it's pretty straightforward.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the current financial? So,
Second.
any questions for Karen? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay,
Okay,
and then audit update, is that, are we moving that, or is this just an update?
just an update. I don't have the final report from the new auditors yet. But I hope to see that. Actually, I hope to see that last week. So I need to suggest that they move more quickly here. The town actually did, with their folks, did a mini audit of us so that they could complete the town audit. And we provided that as well to the auditors. So there shouldn't be any unexpected questions or concerns. We just need them to sign on the dotted line so that they can file our tax return as well.
All set?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, a little conversation and wrap up for the annual meeting. I'm sure Karen has some things to say. I personally thought it was wonderful this year. I just thought everything worked well. Before we get into that, though, he's probably gonna wish that we wouldn't, but one of the things that we were gonna do at that meeting was have a recognition for our friend Rick. And obviously, we were unable to do that. We're very sorry. We're very happy to be here. It's feeling better, though. I will just start by saying that, I moved to Scarborough in 2011. Didn't know many people, was looking to get involved. I think I saw Rick at probably a Marita conference, and he actually recommended SEDCO to me. I don't know, about a month later, I was meeting with Kevin think I looked back, it was Kevin and Bill Austin was my SEDCO interview. But I obviously have known Rick a long time. I appreciate him recommending this to me. I really enjoyed it. From a SEDCO, I think we all have just enjoyed your expertise and your time and everything you've done for the town. So I just want to say thank you for everything, but I'd also like to.
So this is why I was trying to. The con job that Celeste and Michael and I did on you was, yeah. This is the speech I was gonna read. As we all know, Karen always thankfully starts them for us, and we just have to punch them up a little bit and personalize them. So excuse me for reading from the paper, but I'm not sure I would be able to do it without it. So I was going to say, it is my honor to recognize the contributions of one of my fellow board members, Rick Shanae. I've had the pleasure of knowing Rick and his family for over 30 years, which really kind of blows my mind. Not only are they dear friends, but also wonderful neighbors whose commitment to service doesn't run in the family, it's a requirement. I don't know if you guys know, but between Rick and his wife and their daughters, they've been involved in just about everything in the town. After 9 years of service, Rick Shanae will be leaving the SEDCO board as required by our bylaws, which set term limits, but we would be remiss if we did not highlight Rick's contributions to the town of Scarborough here today. He served on the planning board for over 25 years, the long range planning committee, and participated in drafting the town's comprehensive plan in 2006 and 2021. Very important positions for the prosperity of our community, but often very thankless, as I know some people here are aware. He is also a longtime member and former president of the Scarborough Land Trust, which showcases his commitment to the fabric of our town to current and future residents. As a real estate attorney, he also provided SEDCO with an understanding of the development process from the landowner's perspective, which is crucial in reviewing new policymaking. This is from Karen. And while he grumbled a little when our meeting started at 7:30, he's always there and ready to play with us. Please help us thank Rick Shanae for his service to the SEDCO board and the Scarborough community.
Karen, may I say one thing?
Of course.
The Rick reminds me of a person that I sat next to for a year, my first year on the planning board. And I'm sorry, I can't remember his last name, but his first name was Charlie. He was an older guy. I think he was in his 80s at the time. He would have been on the board when you were chair, Rick, sat on the far right-hand side. But anyway, Charlie was one of these guys who meticulously went over every page of documentation that the planning board was given. Very rarely had anything to say. But when he did, he zeroed right in on probably one of the most important issues and kind of hammered on it. I see Rick in a very, very similar fashion. Rick is not a person who says a lot at a meeting, but at every meeting, there's always one thing that Rick zeroes in on that you really need to know about before you make any kind of decisions on the item. And I really respect his ability to do that.
Thanks, John.
Second.
I don't think I'm the only person who deserves credit for serving on this committee, but I do appreciate it. It's been, when I started at Drummond Woodson in 85, October 1 of 85, a lot of emphasis on client development, what's bringing in business. And I looked around and said, the most important thing I can do is serve my community. I had done a lot in South Portland before I came here. In fact, I was chair of the South Portland planning board before moving to Scarborough. And I remember when Celeste said, I found a house for us in Scarborough. I said, where is it? And she says, it's off the Black Point Road. And I drove from South Portland down Highland Road and down Pleasant. There were no houses there. Actually, I said, well, this is way in the middle of nowhere. Far away from everything. Now it's right in the center. I think it's been So it's been good.
Another
and
good decision by Celeste. right?
indeed. Worked at the library for many years, and continues to do a lot of volunteer work, and I've been on a whole bunch of committees over my career. And it's been fun. I joined this committee because I thought I brought something in terms of institutional memory with all the work I've done in town. I think Alan now functions as really that role, and so not sure I'm gonna be missed as much as maybe it would be, but I've enjoyed it. I'm not going anywhere. I am gonna retire. As long as I don't have to get votes, Tom, I will serve on any committee and running for
As long
council.
as you're not a contested seat,
Yeah.
right?
We'll see. But anyway, thank you. Well, can I look at this?
Yes, yes, oh yes, you can show everyone.
Oh, my goodness. Wow. Very nice. Site on as board member at Cheney for 9 years of service. Visiting. Well, thank you very much. I'm so sorry I didn't make the meeting. I know indeed. Yeah.
We were sneaky.
Understand.
Kinds of espionage.
Unfortunately, it was a very difficult
Mm,
couple of days there.
mm.
Well, thank you. I guess I still have technically one more year, right? Am I off at the end of this year? Or next?
I think
year?
you're technically off at the end of this year,
Mhm.
but you can come back. You can still join us. You don't have
As
to
a
be a board
tenure, you
member.
don't ever really have to leave.
Right,
Karen already resubmitted.
yes. We,
It can
we
be
like
part of the
people-
planning,
Yes.
strategic planning.
There you go. That's right.
Thank you.
You become part of strategic planning. So,
Anything else you'd like to talk about from the meeting?
no, I don't have anything to say about the meeting, so I think I would turn it over to the board to see if there's any other suggestions, with respect to the, annual meeting for next year. I think
That's great.
people who are liking sort of the new shorter format.
I really liked it again. I thought it flowed very well. I thought something about the timing, everything just seemed to click this year. I think it goes to show that I think if ever possible and something just jumps out and makes sense and it's easy, that there could be a keynote speaker, but I
Mhm.
think we've seen that it's not necessary. That's not really why people come. I
Right.
think people come to celebrate the town and network and be together and we get the same crowd and turnout with or without a keynote speaker. And so I don't know, I thought everything was very smooth and very well this year.
And we finished 15 minutes early and people stuck around. I was really surprised.
Yeah.
Because since the inn was closed, they didn't want everybody wandering out.
Mm.
But I would say a good 40% of the folks were in the room, staying for another 20 minutes or so, having more cocktails. So that was good.
So should we reserve, next year again?
So everybody is, and remember the big difference between last year, our previous years and this year's, we did it at the end of the month, so that we could have a whole inn to ourselves. Did that make a difference for everyone?
Need parking is.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think the kitchen was somewhere behind the room that we're in, so I think there wasn't wait staff that was coming and going.
Right.
That was a huge difference.
Yeah.
So I
Will
think
they do that again? Cause I know they stayed open.
Yes.
Normally for it, but
I think so, particularly, I thought that just singular focus on us really made a difference, from noise, to parking the big thing. I asked tons of people, and it's funny, the number of people who said, oh, I got the last spot. I'm like, okay. Many people thought they got the last spot, but as long as I got a spot, that was,
I thought the food was much better and more robust this year than years past.
Yeah.
I'm not sure
Yeah.
what the difference was, but
yeah, and we did a full meal instead of doing, I guess we did
It
a
was
full
end of
meal
the season
before.
meal.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, it's definitely. Whatever was allowed.
Well, it could be impaired, so.
Yes. Oh, that's right. We got rid of the hors d'oeuvres because as it turns out, believe it or not, it's more expensive to have heavy hors d'oeuvres than it is to have the full
Yeah.
meal. So we went with the full meal instead of doing the hors d'oeuvres and hoped that nobody was grumbling about not having things before dinner. And it did allow us to get everybody seated, it seemed like.
I will just say I did love Highland Greenhouse. I thought that was such a different kind of event.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if there's an opportunity to spread the wealth there a little bit, every
Yeah.
now and then to do a different location, but.
I think we keep looking for another signature event that we could do, like in
Yeah.
the spring or something like that. The only problem, the only
Challenge.
thank you, with Highland is that you do have to wind up paying, it's an $800 fee for those restrooms.
Right,
So it makes it a little more
Right.
expensive
right.
than the
Yeah.
Black Point Inn, actually. But I agree. I think people really liked that location. It was fun and different, and it created a more casual environment, which I'd love to take advantage of. So,
Yeah, because pushing later in October for at Black Point Inn, it's darker earlier.
yeah,
So you don't even get the benefit of the
right,
views.
true,
But
I
true.
think it's a special place. My sense is most of us that live here don't ever get to the Black Point Inn. So
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
no, it's
nice in that
it's
regard.
great. Yeah,
The only downside is the audio visual is just
Yeah.
challenging.
Yeah,
every time.
But
yes. We've
There
got-
maybe more tables if they could do that. It
More
seemed like
tables?
seating was tight.
But everybody had a seat this time as opposed to having
People
people on the
standing,
edge. Yeah, so that was
Yeah.
at least good. But I think we can squeeze in a few more tables.
If they have them.
Yeah, yeah.
My only critique would be to separate the bar from where the food is.
A
That
little
was
more
backing
distance.
up because
Yeah,
people were waiting for drinks and at the same time trying to stand in line. to
okay,
go
that's a
to
good point.
Line start.
Yeah,
I-
yeah. I moved a couple of people. I said, do you want drinks or food? And they're like, no, food.
Yeah, I think it'd be in the further corner on the left.
Yeah, like it could be, yeah.
Yeah, further away from.
Yeah.
And if there's no one in the main lobby area, maybe they could put the bar there. So as people are coming in, they can,
So this time the ambulance has.
Yeah,
yeah.
yes, yes.
I wonder if there's opportunity. Let's talk about the audiovisual, some ideas.
Okay, great, great. And so, we are getting close on time. May I make a suggestion? The small business discussion was a beginning. John and I talked about whether or not the board would be open to doing a workshop in January, and we can focus the whole discussion, not do the other
Mhm.
parts of the meeting, focus the whole discussion on small business. There's some more stats that we can bring, to get us started. I gave you some that really show us why small business is so important to us. One of the things that we've noticed when we start running some of the stats with our new product is 750, actually a little bit more than that, of the businesses in Scarborough are completely independent. They're not franchises, they're not branches. And I think I was really struck by that number. There's a lot of small business as well. And as we saw with the stats, the average size of the business in Scarborough is 12 employees. Even though we have Hannaford Corporate, Abbott, some really large employers, it's still, this is a town of small business. So refocusing our efforts on looking at what small business can be and how we can help them, I think is worthy of that January workshop. So we don't usually meet in January, but if the board would agree, we can do this workshop. And then I would ask Jim, and actually Jason too, if we can. I have some information that's directly about your businesses from the Placer AI. If maybe the three of us can meet beforehand, maybe we can look through that and say, all right, what's important for small businesses to know, and really plan some releases of that information for folks. Okay.
Will that be here? Do we want to do that?
I was wondering if someone that had some
Piper
really
Shores?
lovely rooms would invite us.
What do you think the date would be?
Well, I was thinking the same date
Same
as
date.
this, yeah, and go 2 hours. So 8 to 10. And that would be January, I don't know what, the third week.
January 16th.
That sounds about right.
So that's,
Yes, 8 to 10. I
Yes.
think we can do that, but let me just double check.
Okay,
I can
yeah, the
check
one room that we were in before, that was
Yeah.
just beautiful and,
That we did is that where we did the retreat?
yeah.
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 Yep.
Yeah, so I think we need to vote on whether or not we're gonna have an additional meeting. So if someone wants to make that motion,
can I have a motion for us to have an additional meeting, workshop meeting, on January 16th? So,
Seconded.
all in favor?
Cool.
Okay.
Rick, will you join us? I do, we do,
And we'll work on an agenda.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
So we have, what my calendar, we have a meeting regularly.
it's technical, we put them on the calendar. But it's technically we meet every other month. So we've traditionally not met in January, but sometimes we've done the workshop, and that's what we're gonna do.
8 o'clock.
Yeah, sorry. Did you want 7:30?
Was there anything else?
No,
Action
we
you
can
wanted to-
do all of this in
Sure.
January. Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's been a while since we've met, so
Yeah,
interested.
exactly.
To go around. Johnny, do you have anything else before we wrap up? Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, and looking forward to working with you guys again next year as the liaison.
You'll be with us on the 16th.
I will. Yep.
Great. Anything else? All right, well, thank everyone as always. I hope everyone has a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year, and can I get a motion to adjourn?
So.
Seconded.
All in favor?
We can stay if we.
All right, thank you all very much.
Thank you, guys. Happy holiday.
Aaron, thanks for
Bye,
that.